Hi, how are you? It's Deborah Hogan of the Amethyst Light Ministry. I have a yen to chat about signs. Whether you're asking for signs, whether you expect signs, whether you have ever seen signs, I want to encourage you to ask to see signs. I want to encourage you to be aware of signs. I want to encourage you to know that the universe, God, the power that be, you are always having signs given to you. You're always having signs presented to you. You just have to be aware, awake enough. You're always being notified by the universe that what you asked for, what you want, is present. It is coming to you. It is on the way. So some of the stories I'd like to share with you are, first off, one of my favorites is that when a loved one passed, her name was Maureen, and I was officiating, trying to get comfortable, sorry. I was officiating her funeral, and I was on the way to the church. And on the way to the church, I drove a road from the town where I lived to the town where the church was. And it was a road I've driven maybe thousands of times, really, literally hundreds, at least 1,000 times in the area where I'd grown up. And on the way to the church, I just said, okay, Maureen, darling, let me know you've landed. Let me know you're with me today. Let me know you're present. Thank you. Let it go. Next thing I know, I have to stop on the road because there are ducks or birds of some kind crossing the street in front of me. And there was a whole line of them. And I stopped my car and I casually looked up and the street sign said Maureen Lane. Isn't that awesome? I knew she was with me. So many signs like that loved ones have landed. Whenever I'm working with a patient, a client, a beloved who is leaving their bodies, I always ask them, let me know you've landed. Let me know you landed on the other side. I have a friend whose husband passed last fall, and the next day after the funeral, she was leaving her daughter's house to come home, and she was taken on a detour, and lo and behold, her car had to stop at some intersection, and there was her husband's very first car that he ever had, a Trans Am. She hadn't seen one in all the many, many, many years they had been married, but there it was. And her husband had been a firefighter, and of course myself and she and her children, we were all seeing fire trucks wherever we went. We were being stopped in intersections by fire trucks. There's always signs when you ask. The universe, God, the power that be, is always responding to you, always has your back. When you desire something, when you ask for something, when you're attempting to manifest something, you will always be given notification of the coming of it. You just have to be awake, alert, and believe enough that you will see them. I know someone actually who is looking to rehab their home. That is their dream, to rehab their home. And after they did some manifesting work around it, deliberate and creative manifesting work around the manifestation of this, all of a sudden their neighbor was putting on an addition. And then a couple of weeks later, her son surprised them by telling them that he had redone his kitchen, and they didn't even know it was happening. It was just one person after another, all of a sudden, was rehabbing. Now, if you're in an unawake mentality, you're going to think, oh, they're doing everything I want to do, and you'll be sad and feel sorry for yourself. But if you're in an awake mentality, you'll realize, wow, it's coming closer. It's coming into my reality. I am manifesting this. This is happening for me. It's just so great to be awake enough to see the signs, especially when you're asking for forms of abundance. There's all kinds of ways that abundance comes to you. Even if you're asking for more financial abundance, maybe you get extra hours at work. That's a form of abundance. Maybe you have I don't know, maybe you win 10 bucks in the lottery. That's a form of abundance. Maybe all of a sudden you're at work and you're in charge of a district. And all of a sudden your district gets smaller, but your pay stays the same. That's a form of abundance. A little less work, still the same amount of money. That's a form of abundance. Free time is a form of abundance. There's just so many great signs for people to look for and to see. Many, many, many years ago, I was brought to to simplify this, a halfway home. And in the halfway home, I was asked to do some clearing in there. The manager of the property knew me, and I had met the clients who lived there. And they had a client live there that was not very healthy, and that was really causing painful acts to happen. And they had the client dismissed, and they wanted a clearing done. And she called me in and said, our clients would really appreciate your help. And I said, of course. So I went in and I met with them. There were about maybe 6 men living in this home. And we cleared it all out. And they loved crystals. They loved all that. So I brought crystals, and we buried a crystal in the corner of the house proper. So there was a house, there was a greenhouse in the back, and there was a garage port in the front. And there was a solid house, and we put crystals there. They had this beautiful bookcase mantle area, and we had made it into a beautiful altar and put some of their favorite things in there. And I just did a whole house cleaning. I spent the day with them. We talked about all kinds of positive things. We did prayer work together, and they created this altar, and they felt really, really good. And I also donated, my ministry donated some paint so they could repaint their whole home. And that felt like a lovely clearing. And about a week later, I was sitting in my office space, and I was meditating, and I heard from Spirit, go have breakfast, you need food. Oh, okay. So I got up and I went down to the little corner restaurant, and I started having breakfast. And right when I finished breakfast, I got a text from the manager of the halfway house. It said, Deborah, can you come right away? Got in my car, drove to the halfway house. There had been a fire. The fire took most of the house that we had just cleared. It did not touch the carport, and there was a car in there, so the explosion would have been tremendous. It did not touch the greenhouse. Some items melted, but it didn't burn the greenhouse. And after we got, all the men were safe, and the firemen told us the manager and I could go in to retrieve whatever was left for these men, we went in, and we just stared at each other with tears in our eyes. The only thing standing in the middle of this whole fire was the altar space. There was no roof, and there was dripping water, and you can just imagine how it looked. But the altar that we had created, or I helped create with the men who lived there, was whole. Even the pictures didn't burn. Their artifacts didn't burn. The feathers didn't singe. The pictures of Native Americans and the Buddhas and the angels and their special books, all intact. So I remember lifting up our shirts and piling everything in there and coming out with all of this for the men. We were both breathless with knowing that God had taken care of their altar space, and that the angels had watched over them, that they did not, the car didn't explode, and that no one was hurt. And we were just seeing all these wonderful, wonderful, amazing signs and proof. And the men couldn't see it. It was a great lesson for me. They were hurting souls. They were trying to find their ways in the world through addiction and AIDS. And they were hurting, and they couldn't see the positiveness of it. We did get them into another house. Another building was free. We did have all new paint and everything new put in that home, and have to, wash everything down and help get it ready for them. But their stories kept being how they lost all their clothes and how they lost all their records. And it's true. They did lose their clothing and they did lose their records. But everything on that altar was safe. And they were safe. It felt like a miracle to me. And that's just my perception. But it certainly was an experience that is ingrained in my heart forever. So I hope when you're asking for something and you're praying about something, that maybe when you see it in other people, experiencing it, being happy for them, being blessed to know, oh, thank you, God, for bringing me that sign that it's happening. I can feel it. It's getting closer and closer and closer to me. If you're asking for the new right and perfect job and someone calls you and says, hey, I got this job today, be happy for them, because not only did they get the job they wanted, but they're in your life. That's a message for you too. Your job is coming closer to you. Well, look for the notifications from the universe. You're always on high alert and you're always being notified, because whenever you ask for something, it is an automatic mode for it to come to you. And when you allow it to happen and you get to watch the journey of it evolve and become a reality in your life, that's really, really fabulous and exciting. I'm in the midst of that myself. I have been calling upon something particular in my life, and I am watching signs come to me. It's happening to many people around me, not to me yet, but I know that those are signs, and I am so blessed that they share their stories with me, and I'm so excited that they're nearby and close to me, and I'm so happy that I'm seeing it happening, and I know the momentum of it is getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And soon, I will see it manifest in my experience also. Okay, just a short one. I love you. God bless you. Have a beautiful afternoon, evening, nighttime sleep, nap, whatever time of day it is in your life. And I hope you visit the amethystlightministry.org on the net and see what we're all about. And if you live nearby and I can be of any service to you, please let me know. Bye-bye.